Today we're going to start talking about exploring ratios. So what's a ratio? A ratio is a comparison to two quantities with the same unit. What does that mean? Well, we can compare things within the same group, and that's what we call a part-to-part ratio. For example, we've got here all of these flowers, and we got some daisies, and we got some roses. So if we want to compare the daisies to the roses, we say, okay, well, how many daisies do we have? Well, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3 daisies. Okay, and how many roses do we have? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roses. So we write that in a ratio format, 3 to 5, or we say 3 to 5, because there are 3 daisies to 5 roses. 3 daisies to 5 roses. And that's what we call a part-to-part ratio. But we also have a part-to-whole ratio. What that means is that although these are daisies and these are roses, they're all flowers. So how many flowers do we have all together? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 flowers all together. Okay, so let's remember that. So if we want to compare the daisies to the total amount of flowers that we have, what do we get? Well, how many daisies do we have? We had 3 daisies. And what is the total amount of flowers that we have? Well, we said we had 8 flowers in total. So when we're comparing this on a part-to-whole ratio, it means that we're comparing a part, in this case the part are the daisies, to the whole ratio, and the whole is all the flowers. We've got 3 to 8, or we can write that down as 3 to 8, or we can write it as a fraction, 3 over 8. They all mean the same thing. So remember, this one at the top right here was part to part, because we're comparing a part of all of our flowers to another part of all of our flowers. The bottom here is called part to whole ratio, because we were comparing a part of all of our flowers to all of our flowers that we have. Okay, let's try it with our little animals here. So on a part-to-part ratio, if we wanted to say a ratio of cats to dogs, what would we say? Well, how many cats do we have? Got 1, 2 cats. And how many dogs do we have? 1, 2, 3 dogs. So our part-to-part ratio would be 2 to 3. 2 cats to 3 dogs. Or you can write it as 2 in the word 2 to 3. But what if I wanted to know how many dogs we have in all of the animals showing, so as a whole, what we call a part-to-whole ratio. So if I wanted to see how many dogs to all of the animals that we have, can we show that as a ratio? Sure. We can count the number of dogs that we have, 1, 2, 3 dogs. And the ratio would be to all of the animals that we have. So how many animals do we have in total? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 animals in total. So our dogs to all of the animals ratio would be 3 to 5. Or as a fraction, 3 over 5. That means that we have 3 dogs out of all of the animals that we have. Okay, what about this one? So we've got some apples, we've got some pears, and we've got a banana. So what do we want to show the ratio of bananas to pears? What do we have? Well, we have 1 banana, and how many pears? 1, 2, 3 pears. Okay. What if we wanted to show the ratio of apples to pears? All right, we've got 2 apples, and we got 3 pears. Okay. What if we wanted to show the ratio of pears to fruits? Pears to fruits. Well, we've got 3 pears. And how many fruits do we have all together? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our ratio of pears to fruits would be 3 to 6. And if we need to express that as a fraction, it would be 3 to 6. Now remember, we only express as a fraction when we're using the part to whole ratio. That is, when we're looking at a part and comparing it to the whole thing. That is the only time we would use a fraction. So in this case, we used the fraction when we looked at pears, so 3 pears, to the total amount of fruits right here. So this is what we got, the 6. We used a fraction here when we looked at our 3 dogs to all of the animals that we have. So we said 3 out of 5. And we used a fraction over here when we looked at 3 daisies to the total amount of flowers, which were 8, 3 to 8. We don't do that when we're looking at part to part, like daisies to flowers, cats to dogs, or banana to pears. Let's take a look at this question. Let's look at A, B, and C. And our question will be, what is being compared in each ratio? Okay, so let's take a look at A. It says 3 to 4. And here's our picture right here. So there's something in here that we're comparing that is going to give us a ratio of 3 to 4. So to get this 3, we know that there's going to be something in here that there's 3 of. So we've got some green circles, some yellow circles, some blue circles, and some red circles. Out of all of those, which one shows that we have 3 of them? Well, we see that we have 2 blues. We've got 4 greens. We've got 7 yellows. Oh, and we've got 3 reds. So we see that this 3 represents the reds. Okay. What about the 4? What do we have 4 of? Oh, we've got the greens. So this ratio represents red to green because we have 3 reds and 4 greens. All right, so what is this ratio representing? We've got 2 over 16. Now, I don't know if you remember what I said about our fraction, but we've got 2 out of 16. Okay, so we said we had 4 greens, 7 yellows, 2 blues, and 3 reds. Okay, so we've got our 2 right here. Got 2 blues, so we know we've got blues. Okay, so that's our top. What about the bottom? It says 16. What do we have 16 of? Well, all of these circles add up to 16. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So, to all circles. So this ratio represents 2 blues, so blue circles to all circles. Okay, this was our ratio part to whole that we talked about, because our part are the blue circles and our whole is all of the circles that we have in the picture. Also, the key is our fraction. We only see these fractions when we're comparing to whole. Keep that in mind. Okay, our next one is 4 to 7. And if you'll notice, this is a different way to write the ratio. I said that you could write the ratio when you're looking at part to part as 3 to 4 this way, or 4 to 7 this way with the word 2. Okay, so we're comparing a part to part, which is 4 to 7. What do we have 4 of? All right, we've got our green circles, so we know that's going to be green. And what do we have 7 of? Okay, we've got our yellow circles. So what we're comparing here is green to yellow. This is a part to part. This is a part to part ratio. And this one is a part to whole ratio. Now let's try a word problem. So our word problem says, Miss Sue has 12 boys and 15 girls in her class. Write each ratio for each of these. So we're going to look at girls to boys, boys to students, boys to girls, and girls to students. Perfect. So we've got some part-to-part ratios and some part-to-whole ratios. Okay, so our first one will be girls to boys ratio. So how many girls do we have? Well, we've got 15 girls. Okay, so we need to write our ratio. We start with our 15. And our ratio says girls to boys. So what do we have on the other side? Well, we need to find out how many boys do we have. Well, we got 12 boys. So our ratio of girls to boys will be 15 to 12, or you can write it as 15 to 12. Okay, what about boys to students? Okay, so how many boys do we have? We've got 12 boys, but this one is a part to whole question because it's asking us to show the ratio of boys to students. So we need to know how many students do we have altogether. So we've got 12 boys and 15 girls. What is that? That is 27 students. We have to add them together. Remember, students is the whole. It's everything that we've got all together. Girls is a part and boys is a part to part. When we add them all together, we get our whole. So what do we have all together? We've got students. So boys to students, we've got 12 boys and how many students? 27 students. So our ratio of boy to students is 12 to 27, or we can write it as 12 to 27, or because this is a part to whole ratio, we can also show it as a fraction of 12 over 27. Remember, we only do this when we have a part to whole ratio. Okay, what about boys to girls? Is that a part-to-part ratio or a part-to-whole ratio? It's a part-to-part ratio. We've got a part is the girls and another part is the boys. So what do we have? Boys, we've got 12 boys. To girls, how many girls do we have? 15 girls. So our ratio of boys to girls is 12 to 15, or we can write it as 12 to 15. Okay, our last one will be girls to students. So how many girls do we have? We've got 15 girls. And now how many students we have? So once again, this is a part to whole. We need to look at our whole picture. What do we have all together? We've got 27 students. So girls to students will be 27 right here. So we've got 15 to 27. We can write that as 15 to 27, or because we're looking at the whole thing, we said we could also represent that as a fraction, and it will be 15 over 27, which means 15 out of the 27. Right here it means 12 out of the 27. And that's how we answer this type of problem.